calling all forward-thinking estheticians. It's time to redefine the art of skincare and embrace a revolutionary approach that begins with your client's skin cell health. I'm pharmacist Ben Fuchs, welcoming you to Truth Treatment Systems, where beauty begins at the cell. We believe you're not just a beauty professional, you are a healthcare professional. You want to make a positive difference and you want to make a good living, and we will help you do both. We're here to support your out-of-the-box thinking and empower you to question traditional products, outdated formulations, and old-school ingredients. Imagine a world where solutions to the skin's enigmatic conditions lie just beyond the horizon. At Truth, we're not just a skincare brand, we're a movement that encourages you to explore better solutions and find that aha moment that changes the game. You are an artist and a healer of the skin, and we're here to provide the canvas and the tools for you to create tailored protocols, leaving generic ones in the past. Sign up now at truthtreatmentspro.com and receive 2 complimentary mineral-rich electrolyte sheet masks. That's truthtreatmentspro.com, where healthy skin is beautiful skin.
Hello and welcome to ASCP and the Rogue Pharmacist with Benjamin Knight Fuchs. In each episode, we will explore how internal and external factors can impact the skin. I'm Maggie Stasek, ASCP's Program Director, and joining me is Ben Fuchs, skincare formulator and pharmacist. Hey, Ben.
Hello, Maggie.
Glycation is a lesser-known factor in skin aging, but can have a big impact. Ben, break it down for us and how we can minimize its effects.
Okay. So, it's funny you say lesser because more and more people are starting to recognize that glycation is a problem. We learned about it in pharmacy school, actually, not necessarily in terms of the skin, but in terms of aging. And as we age, our bodies glycate. Glycation is best thought of as browning. And if you want a good visual of glycation, think of toast. When you heat bread in a toaster, the sugars and the protein in the bread react with each other and you get a browning effect. Same thing happens when you brown meat. Sugars in the when you cook meat, I should say, the sugars in the meat combine with the protein in the meat, and you get a browning effect. This happens to the body. This browning effect is called glycation, and it's basically the end result of sugar's reaction to protein, also to fats. Sugar can react to a lesser extent, mostly to proteins, and the sugar reaction with fats or with protein is called glycation. In fact, scientists have a very fancy way of referring to glycation in the body. They call these glycation end products advanced glycation end products. And they do that to be very clever. We scientists are clever. And to imply that it's associated with aging. And it is associated with aging. In fact, it's one of the hallmark signs of aging is browning. And if you were to examine the lung tissue, for example, of an older person compared to the lung tissue of a younger person, you'd see browning. Glycation is a marker of the aging process, and anything you could do to slow down glycation will slow down the aging process. Glycation in the skin is responsible for wrinkles, for breakdown of collagen, breakdown of any protein. In fact, any protein in the body is susceptible to this glycation process. And while it can occur to the protein in the skin and cause cosmetic problems, it can occur to the protein in your blood vessels and wreak havoc on the vascular system, and it's one of the reasons why we have heart disease. Glycation can occur in the various organs, and it's why our livers deteriorate. So keeping your blood sugar low is critical. Sugar is very, very explosive. Do you ever get a sugar burn? You ever cook pastry or caramel?
Oh, yeah. Okay,
you
sure.
get a sugar burn? It burns hot. I remember reading about a fire in a sugar factory in Florida. It was a little small town. And they had to bring in fire engines from like towns all over the vicinity, and they couldn't put the fire out for 4 days because sugar burns so hot. It's very explosive. When we were kids, I never did this, but I saw kids do this. They would put sugar in people's gas tanks. You ever hear of this?
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it would destroy the gas tank.
Yeah.
Because sugar is just explosive, sticky stuff. And keeping your blood sugar stable or low is very important. We have a hormone in the body that does just that because from an evolutionary perspective, the body couldn't have high concentrations of sugar. And as soon as sugar levels reach a certain point in the blood, insulin comes to the rescue and pulls out the sugar for the blood to keep the blood sugar low. Today, we have a problem with insulin resistance, which is, if not the most important health challenge that Americans have to deal with, it's right up there. Insulin resistance is when your body doesn't listen to insulin. And so instead of pulling the sugar out of the blood, the sugar levels stay high And this leads to increased glycation, increased advanced glycosylated end products, and increased disease and shortened longevity. So glycation is a huge health issue. And keeping your sugar down through intake, through reducing intake, is the most important strategy for reducing glycation. You can also strengthen your insulin. That's another important strategy. And there's wonderful nutritional supplements, and there's certain nutritional supplements that everybody should be using, whether or not they've been diagnosed as a diabetic. Diabetes, by the way, is the disease of elevated blood sugar. That's the disease where your blood sugar stays elevated. And keeping or insulin resistance, your body not listening or cells not listening to insulin, is one of the reasons that happens. Of course, the crazy amount of sugar that we eat also has an impact on elevated blood sugar. Just to give you kind of a visual, if you're healthy, you have maybe a teaspoon or even less, 3/4 of a teaspoonful of sugar in your entire gallon of blood or so. It's not quite a gallon, but you have a little over a gallon of blood in your body. You have maybe a teaspoon of sugar, a little less than a teaspoon. If you drink a Coke, you now have drank 12 teaspoons of sugar. Most of it's going to go into your blood. If you have 2 Cokes, that's 24 teaspoonfuls. If you have a bowl of Cheerios or cereal with sugar on top of it, that's another 6 teaspoonfuls. If you have a Twinkie, that's another 10 teaspoons of sugar. I mean, the amount of sugar that we're ingesting and putting into our bloodstream that's only supposed to have 1 teaspoon of sugar in it, approximately. When you think about it in those terms, you could see why we have such a problem with elevated blood sugar. And because insulin is constantly working, why the cells stop listening to insulin and why we have to deal with insulin resistance. So keeping your sugar low, your intake of sugar low, is critical. And it's funny because glycation, as significant as it is as a source of aging, as well as cosmetic distress, because it's a source of wrinkles and accelerated aging of the skin, it's kind of voluntary when you think about it. I mean, yeah, we're addicted to sugar and it's delicious and we need a certain amount of sugar, but it's not like somebody's forcing us to ingest sugar. It's kind of like a voluntary thing. So keeping your sugar down, as hard as that is, sugar ingestion down, is really important. Strengthening your insulin is also very important. Luckily, there's great nutritional strategies you can use. For example, and this is for anybody who's pre-diabetic, and just because you've been told you're not a diabetic, doesn't mean you don't have what's called dysglycemia. See, diabetes is a diagnosis based on a metric. So if you have a blood sugar level of around 120 milligrams of sugar per deciliter of blood, you're officially a diabetic. But if you're at 119.9999999, the doctor will say, oh, you're fine. You're okay, which obviously is pretty silly. You know, blood sugar issues occur on a spectrum. It's not just cut and dry. Sometimes it's binary. So yeah, diabetes is binary. You either have it or you don't. But dysglycemia, dys meaning disturbances, glyce meaning sugar, emia in the blood, dysglycemia, disturbances in blood sugar, disturbances of sugar in the blood, that is a progressive issue. And even today, they'll call it prediabetes. So even if you haven't been diagnosed as a diabetic, you very well could be dysglycemic. And one of the best things you could do if you're dysglycemic and you want to keep your blood sugar down, drink water. That will dilute your sugar. And anybody who's dysglycemic or has diabetes or prediabetes will know that if they take their blood sugar, test their blood sugar in the morning, they'll find that their blood sugar concentration is higher. Because in the evening, you've urinated a couple times, you've sweated out, you haven't drank any water for 6 or 8 hours. So your blood is concentrated and the sugar is concentrated. The blood sugar concentration is higher. Drinking water is a great way to dilute your blood sugar concentration. Also, building muscle. Muscle is one of the best ways you can sensitize your insulin. So people who are diabetic should be going to the gym, or dysglycemic should be going to the gym. That's another way to lower your blood sugar. And then there's incredibly valuable nutritional supplements for helping with glycation. When I say helping with glycation, I mean helping with blood sugar, helping lower blood sugar. Chromium, vanadium, probably, I don't want to say the best, but one of the best is vitamin B1, thiamine, vitamin B3, niacin, sulfur, selenium. These are all great ways to either potentize your insulin or to help your body handle sugar. Also fiber with your meals. In fact, one of the problems with with elevated blood sugar is a lot of us are ingesting sugar with no fiber. You know, Jamba Juice and these fruit juices, horrible in terms of blood sugar because you're getting a big dose of sugar that goes right into your bloodstream without the fiber. So you got to be careful about that as well. And then there's things that you can use topically to slow down glycation. Interestingly, retinol is one of the best topical anti-glycating agents. And if you're concerned about topical glycation, retinol is something you want to consider. Also, alpha hydroxy acids. And people don't think of alpha hydroxy acids or retinol as having anti-glycating benefits, but they do. Niacin, topical niacin, it has anti-glycating benefits. Hyaluronic acid may have some topical anti-glycating benefits as well. There's also I don't know if you call it an amino acid, but it's similar to amino acids called carnosine. Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, carnosine is a great anti-glycating agent. Vitamin C is anti-glycating. Vitamin E might be actually, these are antioxidants, which will support anti-glycation. They're not directly anti-glycating, but antioxidants will help. Sun protection will also help slow down glycation because heat speeds up the glycation process. So using sun protection, I like zinc oxide. There's a really interesting substance called aminoguanidine, which you can't really find because it's got some side effects that might help. And then peptides. There's certain peptides like arginine and lysine peptides may help you with. These are for topical application. They may help you protect against topical glycation. Also, while glycation of proteins is the most significant place where you have to worry about these advanced glycation end products, lipids and fats can also glycate. So if your blood sugar is elevated, sebum will glycate, and that can accelerate the rancidity of sebum, which can cause inflammatory issues in the follicle for folks who are dealing with acne. So glycation may impact acne patients. Using vitamin E can help protect your sebum. Using selenium can also help protect your sebum. And then also, if your skin barrier is compromised, you may be more susceptible to glycation reactions. So strengthening the skin barrier, again, using retinoids or alpha hydroxy acids can help there. And that can also help stabilize the formation of the barrier vis-a-vis helping support effective differentiation or maturation of skin cells as they're rising from the bottom to the top. But the absolute best way to avoid glycation issues, keep your sugar down. And as I said earlier, nobody's forcing us to eat sugar. So it's almost like it's voluntary. Advanced glycation end product formation is almost voluntary in the sense that we have volition in controlling how much sugar we're putting into the body and ultimately how much glycation is going to occur.
That concludes our show for today, and we thank you for listening. But if you just can't get enough of Ben Fuchs, the ASCP's Rogue Pharmacist, you can find him at truthtreatments.com. For more information on this episode or for ways to connect with Ben Fuchs or to learn more about ASCP, check out the show notes.